Right, second video on the Aleph Beyt series. There's something I forgot to mention on the last video, so I'll just briefly go over it. Beyt or Beyt, second letter. I forgot to mention when you get the paleo version like that. Sometimes it looks a bit like that, and other times it looks a bit like that, which is a bit like a tent on a field. Okay, if you flip that, you basically get our letter B. Okay, so again, A, B, we kind of get our B from there as well. Also, that's it basically. That's what I forgot to mention. Okay, so on to Gimel now. It's not quite A, B, C, it's more like A, B, G. Because as I said, this went into the Greek, flipped over, got changed about a bit, and eventually came down to us through Latin and Roman. So, go to the oldest one. It looks basically like this. Okay, it's a bit like a straight L, and the sources say it's like a picture of a foot or leg, so it's easily seeable. That's supposed to be a foot, by the way. You get the idea. Sometimes in pictographic it was flipped exactly the same as paleo. So in paleo Hebrew it's the same thing, but it's more like that. Okay. When it went into sort of the Dead Sea Scrolls area, which is the script was kind of a bit like this, mostly like this, but not quite. It was basically something like that, and then this evolved into the modern type Aramaic Hebrew script. Basically like that. Sometimes it was at a slight angle. The angle sometimes changed, but it's the same kind of thing. And obviously, if you look at that in Greek, the gamma is kind of the same thing swapped over. Okay. Okay. Grammatically, it's same as number 3. And yeah, hang on. That's supposed to be a camel, by the way. It's looks more like a horse, but never mind. One of the meanings allegedly is camel. I'm not so sure on that, but I see where they're coming from, and it possibly does mean camel. Now if you look at the name of the letter, Gimel, when you spell it out, it's basically, I do it in modern Hebrew. Let me do it. Something like that. Gimel, Mem, Lamed. You get Gimel, then you get Gamel. And Gamel is a camel, and Gamel, camel. That's where we got our the word from, basically. Okay. Just a small thing. Again, foot and leg. Now, if you look at a camel, and if you look at a foot and leg, it's all to do with transport. It's all to do with walking. Okay. So you have the idea of walking, and the letter also seems to often have this dynamic of going forward and coming back. Not necessarily in a circle, but going here, coming back, turning around, going that way, and sometimes lifting. One of the meanings in lots of sources is to lift up and carry. Sometimes even gather. But now if you think about lifting something up, if you're gathering something, you're walking, right? You see something, you lift it up, okay? Then you walk somewhere else, you see something and you lift it up. So that's how the meanings kind of link together. And if you look at your camel, obviously it's got big legs on it, and you use that as your main form of transport. It's a bit like a car or a donkey or a horse. and the camel lifts you up and supports you, and you put your load on it, or your equipment, or whatever, your food, and it lifts that and carries that. So hopefully you can see all these dynamics built in. I've seen it suggested as a boomerang and a conduit before as well. I'm not saying the letter means that necessarily, but let me put it down. Okay. So I'll put it down there. Right, if you look at all these, when you have a conduit, usually they have angles. It goes down like a pipe and it turns and it goes up or down. It's like a conveyor. It's the same thing. You're taking something from here to there. So the transport fits the conduit pretty well as well. Okay. Same as a boomerang. The boomerang, first when you throw it, you lift it up. It goes up in the air, and then it goes this way, and then it comes back again. Okay. What else is there? Yeah, some sources even suggest it can mean pride. Excuse me, I'm not so sure about that myself, but it could be in the idea of lifting up, like lifting your head up. You look at the camel's head, you look at the paleo version, it's like that. It's a bit like, you could say the camel's head is there, sort of. I think that's about it. Hopefully if you plug some of these meanings into your studies, it might help you to understand things. Okay.
Hello.
Whoa, not again.
Hello.
So you're talking now, are you?
I can talk lots, but you don't give me a chance.
My little drawing is talking, by the way.
It's not a very good drawing of me, is it?
No, you're freaking me out.
I'll come to help.
Forget it. Just go away.
Aww.
That's kind of weird. Okay, the next letter, Dalet. Pictographically, I've already done Dalet in another video, but I'll go over it again for the sake of the series. Basically, what are those two? As it evolved a bit, kind of the same thing. It went a bit curved and got bent on the slant. And then when it went to paleo, it was basically kind of the same thing, but triangular, more angular. It didn't always have this little tail flick here, but it did sometimes. Quite often it did. Okay, now you take that. If you go into your modern Hebrew, it's this. Okay, if you take this piece, like this, and then rub out the side, well, that's basically that, isn't it? You just twist it. So that's possibly how it showed you. It possibly shows how it evolved. But also, this is kind of like this, with that piece removed. So, making a mess now. Yeah. So that's basically how I believe the letters evolve, because again, you check the sources out when you look at the evolution of the letters, and you will get conflicting information like you do with the meanings and everything else. You have to do research, come to your conclusions, the same as anything. The meanings for this, it's a picture of a doorway, usually. A pathway. Some sources suggest it means back and forth movement. So if you think this has been like a tent flap, i.e. a door, put tent door as well. Because you can imagine that being on your tent. It's a little flap that flaps down, but you can also, if you twist that this way, right, it's like a normal door, you know. So you've got the idea of backwards and forwards motion. Okay. Some sources suggest it also means two things that dangle downwards. Again, like a tent flap. So, I'm not sure if you need an E there. Never mind. Okay. it also has to do with generations. Often when you read the scriptures, you see the meaning of generations. I'm not saying it actually means generations, but the concept is there sometimes. Because when you're born, the doorway opens, you come in, you go through your pathway, right, then you die and the door closes, and then it happens to somebody else opens, and the cycle keeps going on. Okay. Messiah said that I'm the door. Okay, so you could say this means the door. Some people and some sources will suggest that the Gimel also means the Holy Spirit, Ruach. Thing is, as I've come to understand, every single letter represents Elohim in one form or another, whether you're talking of this aspect or that aspect. Every letter is an expression of Elohim. So it's always going to point to him in some way. The Messiah said, I'm the door. So you can put Messiah here. You can put Messiah there where the Vavs are concerned. And all of them you can in some way. Okay? I think that's all it means that I consider that. I'm trying to think just in case I forgot something. Some sources suggest it represents the earth. I'm not convinced. It might do. I think if anything, Beyt or Beyt represents the earth because it's our dwelling, our place we live. But I'm not sure about that. Now, to put the two together as a good example, no, that's not. So that's Dead Sea Scrolls script, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know that one. Add mind block then. So you got modern, paleo, pictographic, just so you can see it easier. The word dag, right, means fish. Now, I think this is a good example because when you put these all together, some of the concepts, it makes a lot of sense. If you look at Dalet, okay, you can say backwards and forwards movement. Right. The Gimel, you can also say it's backwards and forwards because it's the idea of going here and coming back and going there and going up and going down and moving about a lot. So both letters have the idea of something moving backwards and forwards. Right. Fishes, or fish, they make their own pathway in the sea because of the backwards and forwards movement, because of the tail. Okay. So I don't need to write it all down, but you get the idea. You got the tail, goes backwards and forwards. Right. The fish itself goes backwards and forwards in the sea. The tail motion is what propels it forward to go backwards and forwards. You could say the bottom fin is a dangler. That's probably stretching it a bit, but hopefully you can see how that works out there pretty well. Some people think that the word dog in English is from this in some sense because their tail wags. Dag dog, yeah, could be. Right, I can't think of anything else to say now, so I think I've said it all. Hopefully that's helped. And I shall see you on the next video. Okay.